The Kremlin has been creating an alternative reality for Russians for decades. The propagandists were paid a lot of money for this work. After the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, spending on propaganda has increased manifold. Russians are taught about the triumphs of import substitution, rapid growth of the economy, and new sales markets.
Рядовой россиянин будет жить только хуже.
The average Russian will live only worse and worse. No one has loved the Russians in Russia. Starting from the times of Ivan the Terrible, the social security in Soviet Union and Putin's Russia. The Russians are biomass. They are expendable material. They are a statistical unit to be kept in total darkness without gas, without roads, without medical care.
The Kremlin never publicly acknowledges this version of Russia's future, but sometimes misfires happen. A confidential forecast published by Bloomberg confirms this. The document talks about the brain drain from the country, the rapid drop in GDP, and also about stagnation in strategic spheres of Russia: oil and gas, metallurgy, chemical, and others.
These are budget-forming industries, the industries that bring the biggest income from the export of their products. Once Europe stops using Russian gas, there is nowhere else to supply gas. They just started building the second branch from Siberia to China. Just so you understand the ratio of gas volumes, China takes 17-18 billion cubic meters of gas per year. Europe took 180 billion. That is 10 times more.
These are all consequences of the sanctions that have fallen on Russia since its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The Kremlin has already felt the results of the restrictions. For example, the car-building industry and the railway transportation sector are at a standstill due to the shortage of Western parts, which Russia cannot replace with imports. A report published by Bloomberg forecasts further failure of the import substitution program.
Не будет
There will be no high-tech in education, in road infrastructure management, there will be no high-speed trains, no airplanes, there will be no many familiar things like pads, diapers and white paper for notes. Russia will slide into civilizational backwardness. If now Russia uses 30 years old technologies in its armament, then it will be even worse.
Even such outdated technology is a luxury for the Kremlin. It is increasingly difficult to replenish the supply of ammunition. They have to buy it from like-minded nation. According to US intelligence, North Korea helps Russia with these. It sells millions of artillery shells and short-range missiles. The Federation also hopes for help from China. Russia is considering a plan to buy as much as $70 billion in yuan from China for interstate trade.
To some extent, they are trying to replace the flow of goods from Europe and the US to Russia with Chinese goods. But there is a very serious problem. No Chinese company that produces goods in China under licenses and patents registered in the US will supply a single item of goods to the Russian Federation.
As a result, there is a shortage of goods, elementary SIM cards for phones. According to the forecast, it is planned for 2025, and attempts by Russians to avoid such a future by leaving Russia will only make the situation worse. After all, it is primarily the intellectual elite, IT specialists who are leaving, and their outflow is a real blow to the economy.
Экономика развивается за счет
Economy develops at the expense of highly intellectual employees. A simple employee will do the job, which the engineer will program. Meanwhile, the engineer will not do anything at his place if he does not have the software and technological complex. If the programmer who creates this software and technological complex leaves, this software engineer will not be able to perform his task. As a result, the plant stops working.
Experts believe that mass unemployment awaits Russia in the near future. As early as next year, 4 million Russians could find themselves on the labor exchange.
вся Россия практически превратится в один
Russia will actually turn into one depressed region. Only small islands of those close to the government and the personnel who serve them will prosper. Even if we take the example of single industry towns that were tied to factories. Tolyatti, the city, was tied to the production of cars, and at the moment there is a huge crisis. The prospects are uncertain.
Many other regions of Russia will face a similar fate, and their residents will begin to leave for other regions in search of work, reported by Ksenia Buhai, Ksenia Barvinenko, UATV News.